Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. How are you doing, guys? I hope you did well today with the computer exam. Now I want just to revise back this revision sheet because there were some classes. The session was on Thursday, so there will be no time for them to attend tomorrow at school for revision. That's why I said let's delay the quiz to Thursday until I just revise for everyone and make sure that everyone, you know, got it right for as for all the questions here. So let's start by the first question. What is 3D printing? And for sure, it's not a type of computer game, and it's not a way to make 2D drawings. So it's a technology used to create physical objects. Number two, what is a matter that can be used for 3D printing? So of course you cannot put paper in a 3D printer, of course. And how about glass? Glass also is wrong because glass melts at like 1000 degrees or something. So of course you cannot use glass with a 3D printer. So the correct answer here is PLA. And we said PLA stands for polylactic acid or something, like it's a chemical name. So it's not standing for plastic. Yes, it feels and looks like plastic, but it's not plastic. PLA does not stand for plastic. So number three, what is something that can be made using a 3D printer? So let's check them one by one. Of course, not a movie. Okay. How about a sandwich? Okay. So if you think about sandwiches, no, a sandwich is something compound, like a burger sandwich, for example. It will have, uh, bread layer up and layer down, and in the middle there's like meat or the burger itself and some vegetables, and whatever you put with that, fries or whatever. So of course a 3D printer cannot do this, but you can use it to print a 3D model. Number four, what are some advantages of using 3D printing? Let's check them one by one. It can create objects at home. That's correct. It is more expensive than traditional manufacturing. That's wrong, because we said all the technologies, when they just appear, they will be expensive, and then the price will go lower and lower by time. So the cockroach that we printed at school, so I told you that you can print like 10 cockroaches or something for only 1 real. So now it's not as expensive as it was in the past. So number C, it can create objects of any size. Okay, that's sorry. So that's wrong. Okay, why, guys? Because you will be limited to the printing size of the printer itself, the printing bed or the dimensions. So you have the maximum X and Y coordinates and also the Z coordinate to go through. So that's practically, that's not impossible. However, yes, we can say, or we can argue with this by saying you can cut your model into pieces and then glue them together or stick them together after printing. But again, the word any size is very wide and broad, So that's wrong, actually, because you will be limited to the size of the printer itself or the bed size. But it can create objects at home. That's correct. Let's move to number 5. What are some safety precautions to follow when using a 3D printer? So we maybe we didn't cover this topic when we were explaining. So we said that there are some main 3 steps for 3D printing. The first one might be design. Okay, so design, and number 2, slice. Okay, number 3, or step number 3, is to print. So design, slice, print. So we talked about these things before when we were in the classroom. So there is another step or 4th stage, which is called post-processing. Okay, So the post-processing step is where you would let me just try to write post-processing. This step comes after printing. This step might include, number one, removing extra support material. Okay, maybe you after removing the extra support material, you will find that the surface is not as smooth as it should be. So this stage might include also sanding, using sanding paper to make your model smoother. Number three, you might do some painting or add your own colors to the model after printing. And number four, there's another step called polishing to make your model be shiny after printing. So there are some safety precautions you have to follow. So for example, guys, when you are removing this extra support material, you might use sharp tools. That's why you might need to wear safety goggles and gloves, because you need gloves to protect your hand during this step. And also some parts might jump and come in your eyes and hurt your eyes. As for sanding, there will be a fine powder that comes out after sanding, so you really don't need to breathe this, because this can harm your respiratory system. So sanding needs you also to wear a mask or something. So painting and polishing also may result in fumes or smells that are bad for your lungs. So never leave the printer unattended. We said yes, that's a correct practice, is to keep an eye on the printer all the time. But of course, it's illogical if you're gonna print something that takes like 4 days or 5 days to print. It's illogical to stay sitting in front of the printer gazing at it all the time. That's of course wrong. But leaving the printer unattended all the time, so that's wrong, because many things, many wrong things can happen during the printing process, including like if the filament gets stuck or something wrong happened. Maybe if you buy a cheap spool of filament, it might be tangled in the middle, something bad because of the bad factory or something like that. You will never know this, okay, until you reach the middle of the roll or the spool of the filament, and you will find it tangled. So the best practice is to keep an eye on the printer. Have a look at the printer from time to time. Maybe I'll see is everything's all right or not, then go have lunch or sleep or something like that. So never leave the printer unattended. That's correct. Always have good ventilation. What does ventilation mean? Ventilation means a flow of fresh air coming through the room where the printer is. You might use exhaust fan. The exhaust fan is called shafat in Arabic. So some rooms have this ventilator or exhaust fan. But you have to make sure you have fresh air coming inside the room around the printer, because again of the smells or the fumes and sometimes the smoke that comes out from the printer during work. So here the correct answer will be all of the above. All these safety precautions, they have to be followed. Okay. Number 6. Okay. How do you design? Let me just erase everything. Okay, let me erase all of them. And then let's continue. Okay, number 6. What does it say? How do you design an object that can be 3D printed? By drawing it on paper, or by using a computer program, or by building a model out of clay? So the correct answer, of course, is using a computer program. Number 7, what is the extruder? We talked about the extruder before. It's not the hot end, because the hot end is the nozzle, okay? Clear, guys? The hot end is the nozzle, not the extruder. The extruder is the motor that pushes the filament out of the nozzle. The build plate, of course, is not the extruder. Number 8, the flat surface on which the 3D object is printed on is called what? Of course, it's the printing bed. Number 9, how do you make sure that a 3D printed object is strong enough to use? We discussed this idea before. Let's read them one by one and check them. Number 1, or A, says by printing it in a strong material. This might sound correct, right? But actually this is false, because in case you are using a resin printer, so the only option you can use is resin. You cannot add metal or any other material, right? As for the FDM type printer, you are limited to using ABS or PLA. In case I would try to print something strong, the only option I have in this case is PLA. So I cannot again load metal or whatever strong material with in my printer. So this sentence or this phrase is wrong, because I'm not free to use any material with my printer. So by always testing it before using it, this again might sound logical, but again, how can this be useful for you if you test something before you use it? So will this make it strong? Of course not. So number B, by printing it with a high infill density, that's correct. We talked about the classes I visited. I talked to them if I want to print a board marker, for example, a model of a board marker. So if I print the board marker with 0% infill density, so the marker will be printed and it will look exactly like a marker, but you can easily break it because there's nothing inside. It's hollow inside. But what if I want to make it stronger? So the option here is to increase the infill density, how much plastic will be inside the model. So I can print at 10%, okay, or maybe 20%, which is the default, okay? So we often print at 20% or 30% infill density, and you can increase this up to 100% infill density. In case you print something with 100 infill density, 100% infill density, this will make the model be all plastic outside and inside. So it will be as strong as possible. This is the maximum you can go, but I'm not free to use any different material with my printer. So number 10, what is the difference between a 3D printer and a regular printer? Of course, 3D printers can create physical objects, while regular printers can only create 2D prints. But 3D printers can only print in black and white. That's wrong. 3D printers use a special ink that hardens. Of course not. Number 11, the printing head includes 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? We are talking again about the head. So of course, any answer that includes the bed cannot be chosen, right? So these 2 answers are wrong, and the printing head includes extruder, fan, nozzle. The extruder, the fan, and the nozzle. Number 12, what is the file type for a 3D object? We said that the file type is the extension of the file, or the type of the file. It's STL. Sometimes there is another actually extension. It's called OBJ, okay, which stands for object, but we didn't deal with OBJ yet. But PNG is for images, PNG for 2D images, and also JPG or JPEG. So it has 2 names, JPG or JPEG or JPEG if you want. These are also for images. So JPG and JPEG are exactly the same, while PNG has also transparency channel. So it will be color image like JPG and JPEG, but this one also includes transparency. That's why the stickers that you use on WhatsApp are in PNG format, because they have a transparent background. Number 13, after the slicing process. So now we are talking about after the slicing, which file will be generated. And we talked about that. Before slicing, it's STL, and after slicing, it will be a G-code file that you put on the memory card and insert in the printer and print. Number 14. What is the name of the process in which a 3D printed object is cleaned and finished after printing? We talked about this stage, which is the fourth stage after printing, which is called post-processing. Not only polishing and not only painting, because they are already part of the mother post-processing stage. Number 14, what is the name of the material used to support a 3D printed object during printing? Of course, used to support, it's called the support material. And it's not filler material, because actually we have no other material than like ABS or PLA. And infusion material, of course, not substrate or substrate material, and that's also wrong. Number 16, what is the name of the software used to design 3D models for printing? So let's check them. AutoCAD, yes. We said any program that contains CAD, okay? CAD stands for Computer Aided Development, Computer Aided Design, sorry, Computer Aided Design. So any program that will have the CAD, like Tinkercad, like AutoCAD, like CAMCAD, for example, some other programs. Yes, they are used to design things in 3D. SketchUp, yes. SolidWorks, yes. Adding to Fusion 360. Okay, it's a very famous one and easy to use. Fusion 360. And also Blender is another application that is also famous, especially for making gaming characters and so on. Also Tinkercad, but Tinkercad is not a computer software. It's an online service or a cloud service. It's a website. So here in such case, I'll choose all of the above. All of them are computer programs that are able to design things in 3D. Number 17, which of the following is a common use for 3D printing in the automotive industry? Automotive industry is car manufacturing, okay? We are talking now about vehicles and cars. So here, if you find a car factory that has a 3D printer, what do you think they use the 3D printer for? Let's check them, guys. Prototyping new parts, that's correct, because if I'm a mechanic engineer, I would design a car engine, for example. So I would like to try one design, one model, two more models until I make sure that all the dimensions and all the functions are working fine. Then finally, I'll turn this into a final or real product. Okay, so like printing a small model to see how is everything going, and then if it is all right and correct and fine, so I'm gonna turn it into a final product then. So printing entire cars, can I print an entire car with a 3D printer? Of course I cannot, because it's like a sandwich, it's compound. The car is not all made from one material. You know, you got, you know, metal, you got plastic, you got the chairs themselves and everything else. So of course not, I cannot print an entire car. Number C says repairing damaged vehicles. So can I repair a damaged vehicle or damaged car using a 3D printer? Of course not. This is not the right tool to use. And all of the above wrong, because you know the only one which is correct is prototyping new parts. Number 18. Which of the following is a common use for 3D printing in the food industry? So food industry, what is the relationship between 3D printing and food? Okay, so many students asked me about that, but these are some of the applications of the 3D printing technology, guys, in other industries. That's a new technology that is being used for other industries too. Yani, and in the world that we are living in now, there are printers, and also they are, of course, they are specialized printers that can print food. Okay, print food. Do you imagine that? Okay, can you? They can print food. So how is that, Mr.? Okay, I told the students that I visited that I can, yes, print food, but the food that you're gonna print should be made from one dough or one material, like chocolate, for example. I can put chocolate in the 3D in a 3D printer, and it's gonna make statues out of chocolate. And you can print a cookie, for example, cookies, real cookies, and you can eat them as long as cookies are made from one material. It's not a compound product. Also candies, also burger, but we are talking now about green burger that is used by vegetarian people or vegan people. They don't eat meat, so they can make burger out of vegetables. So yes, that's one of the applications for the 3D printing in the food industry. Creating customized cake toppers, that's correct. Now people go to pastry shops to print their children's images on top of the cake for a birthday party, surprise, or something. So yes, there are specific printers that can use white and brown chocolate to draw images on the top of some cakes. Printing chocolate sculptures, yes, this can be done. Making pizza crusts, yes, this can also be done. Again, using not the printer like the one we have at school, but a special kind of printers that can print food. So the answer here is all of the above. Number 19, what is the extension of exported 3D designed file before slicing? That's the key word. Okay, before slicing, we said it's STL. After slicing, it becomes G-code. How about MP3? MP3 is for audio files, okay, like songs, PDF for books, okay, and JPEG or JPEG for photos, 2D photos, okay? So the answer here is STL. PDF is wrong. So number 20, G-code is a programming language used by 3D printers to execute instructions. A G-code is a programming language used by 3D printers to execute instructions. That's true. Number 21, a 3D printed nozzle, 3D printing nozzle. What is a nozzle? Actually, this is the definition of a nozzle. It's a small heated metal piece that melts and deposits the 3D printing filament layer by layer. That's true. 22, 3D printing is a technology used to create physical objects. That's also correct. 23, glass is a material that can be used for 3D printing. That's false. 24, a sandwich is something that can be made using a 3D printer. That's false. Number 25, it is not necessary to follow any safety precautions. Any safety precautions when using a 3D printer, that's of course false. 26, you can design an object that can be 3D printed by using a computer program. That's correct, right? 27, 3D printing can be used to create medical implants using special biocompatible materials. What does this sentence mean, guys? We said that there are some applications for 3D printing technology in different fields. One of them is building houses. Yes, so real houses can be printed using liquid cement. And if you go on YouTube and search for 3D printed houses, you will see some really fascinating models. And it was like a new technology that they wanted to try out and see how is the cost and how is the time, how can it be better than normal house building and so on. Another application is for like medicine. Let's say medicine also has a relationship with 3D printers, like dentists, for example. Dentists, they can use 3D printers to print support for teeth or their special medical tools, sharp tools or whatever. And also they can print molds for that are gonna be used for making artificial teeth. So also dentists might use 3D printers. What else? Scientists and medical doctors, they can print human body organs, artificial human body organs with flexible material like ABS, but they don't use ABS because ABS is toxic like normal plastic. It is made from petrol and contains chemicals and so on. So in case you would like to make a medical implant like an artificial body organ like an artificial heart or artificial kidney and implant it in a patient, a human being, it should be using a biocompatible material. A biocompatible means it's friendly to a human body, okay? Friendly to the human body. So this sentence is absolutely true. Number 28, you can decide the printing temperature by reading the filament instructions. That's correct. How can I print on like 200 or 180 or 210, 220? We said you have to read the instructions that are that will come with the filament. The factory that made the filament will give you a recommended temperature range. Like for example, the spools we have at school, the rules of filament, they say you can start printing at 185 up to 200 degrees. Okay, that's one of the examples here. 29, to ensure a 3D printed object is strong enough to use, it is important to print it with strong material. We said that this is false because I don't have this freedom. I don't have this option with a 3D printer. I'm only limited to the material that the printer can work with, like resin, okay, or PLA or ABS. Number 30, regular printers can create physical objects like 3D printers. That's false, of course. Regular printers cannot make 3D models. Okay, 31, the average bed temperature is 200 degrees Celsius. We are talking about now 200 and the bed. That's false because the bed can go from like 50 to 60. That's the average. Of course, it can be 0, and of course, it can go up to 100 or even more. But the average is 50 to 60 degrees. 32, 3D printers can move only in X and Y coordinates. That's false because we said there are X, Y, and Z coordinates. Number 33, an FDM type 3D printer, like the one we have at school, has how many motors are there? We said there are 4 motors. The X motor, the Y motor, the Z motor, and also the E for extrusion, or the motor for extruder. So there are 4 motors. The resin printer, for example, if you search on the internet how many motors are there, it's only 1 because it uses light, ultraviolet light or rays. It's a laser-like light, okay? But there will be only 1 motor to move the bed up during the printing process. So it has only one motor for the Z-axis only. 34, 3D printers can only create objects out of plastic. Okay, that's true. However, there are some filaments that look like copper, that feel and look and smell even like wood. So maybe if I print something from this using this type of filament, you'll think it's made of wood, but actually it's not made of wood. It's just filament, but it smells and it feels, and it, if you touch it, you'll feel it's made of wood, but in reality it's not made from wood, because the mixture that they use it to make the filament, they put a fine powder of wood. That's why it smells like wood and it feels and looks like wood, but actually it's not real wood. So 3D printers can only create objects out of plastic. Yes, and we are here talking about FDM type, of course, but there are other 3D printers that can print houses. They are not using plastic, they use liquid cement. So there are other printers that print with chocolate. Again, we talked about this type of printer. So 3D printers can only create objects out of plastic. That's true. And 35, 3D printing is a type of additive manufacturing that creates objects layer by layer. That's also true. Number 36, 3D printing can be used to create edible objects, things you can eat, such as candies and cookies. Yes, we said so. That's correct. Okay. 37, a 3D printer can work as a standalone device. What does this word mean? Standalone means it can work alone without the need to be connected to a computer or a laptop. And that's also true because you insert the memory card that has the G-code file or the model file and it's going to print. Number 38, to ensure a 3D printed object is strong enough to use, it is important to use higher infill density. This time we'll choose true, not a different or a strong material. Number 39, ambient temperature has no effect over the printing process. Let's now understand what is ambient temperature again. I explained this. So the filament that we have at school, they say you can print from 180 to 200 degrees. So why am I printing at 210? Because the room where the printer is, okay, there is an AC working at like 20 degrees Celsius. So it's cold in the room, and that's called the ambient temperature. The ambient temperature is the temperature around the printer itself. He says here that ambient temperature has no effect over the printing process. Of course not. That's false, because it can affect the 3D printing process. That's why I pushed the temperature like 10 degrees higher. I should print at 200. I'm printing at 210 to compensate, okay, for this ambient temperature effect around the printer. Number 40, the process in which the model is prepared for printing is called what? We said that designing, slicing, and printing. So slicing is the stage where you prepare the model for printing. Now let's go back because guys, I don't feel relaxed to this one. 3D printers can only create objects out of plastic. That's true, but if we are talking about FDM type, okay, FDM type of printers, but there are other printers that can print using chocolate. There are actually in SpaceX factory, factory owned by Elon Musk, that creates space rockets and so on. They print the body of the outer body of the rocket, which is metal, using a 3D printer. And it looks more like a robotic arm, but it works the same as a 3D printer work. It melts metal and makes this metal, puts this metal layers above layers above layers. So it's the same principle as the normal FDM type printers work. So let's say, don't think about this question, but anyway, if you find it in the test, just choose true, because if we are talking about FDM printers, the ones that you studied, so it will be true, of course, but it's not accurate anyway. So forget about this question. Anyway, it's not in the test, inshallah. So don't worry about this question. Actually, I shouldn't have included this one here. That's all, guys. And I wish anyone who has any question, just send me on WhatsApp, a message on WhatsApp, asking me whatever you want, or on Teams also. I would really appreciate it, and everybody is welcome for sure. Study well, guys, before the test, and be sure to be there on time, inshallah. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.